Do you want to make the most out of your limited gardening space? Welcome to a world where size doesn't limit beauty or productivity. Today, we're diving deep into the art and science of container gardening. We'll explore how to select the perfect containers, choose suitable plants, optimize plant placement for sunlight, master watering techniques, and dodge common gardening pitfalls. So, whether you're an urban dweller with a tiny balcony or just a green thumb looking for new adventures, this is for you. Stay tuned to learn how to maximize your gardening space efficiently. Starting with the basics, choosing the right container is critical. When it comes to container gardening, it's not as simple as picking up a pot and planting. There's a science to it, and the first step in that science is selecting the right containers. Now, when choosing containers, there are three main factors to consider: size, material, and drainage. Let's start with size. The size of your container should be determined by the plant you intend to grow. Larger plants will need larger containers, while smaller plants can do with smaller ones. But remember, it's always better to err on the side of bigger. More room for roots means healthier, happier plants. Next, let's talk about material. Containers come in a variety of materials including plastic, clay, ceramic, and even wood. Each has its own pros and cons. For example, plastic and ceramic containers are lightweight and inexpensive, but they may not provide the best insulation against heat and cold. Meanwhile, clay and wood containers offer better insulation but can be heavier and more costly. Finally, we have drainage. This is a critical factor in container gardening. Your container must have adequate drainage to prevent waterlogging, which can lead to root rot, a common killer of container plants. So, always ensure your container has one or more holes at the bottom. Now, where can you find these containers? Well, you don't need to break the bank. You can repurpose items around your house like old buckets, baskets, or even boots. Just be sure to drill drainage holes if they don't already have them. In conclusion, selecting the right container is more than a matter of aesthetics. It's about providing the best home for your plants where they can grow and thrive. So, take your time in choosing, consider the size, material, and drainage, and remember, sometimes the best containers might already be in your home waiting to be repurposed. So, remember, the right container can make a significant difference in your container gardening experience. Now that we have our containers, it's time to pick our plants. The world of plants is vast and varied, offering a myriad of choices for our container garden. But remember, not all plants are suitable for container gardening. Let's explore some factors to consider when selecting plants for your container garden. Firstly, consider the plant's size and growth pattern. For a container garden, we're looking for plants that are comfortable with limited space. Dwarf or miniature varieties are often a good choice. These plants are bred to be compact and are less likely to outgrow their containers. If you fancy taller plants, go for those with a narrow, upright growth habit. Next, we take a look at the sunlight requirements. Some plants thrive in full sun, while others prefer shade. It's essential to match your plant's sunlight needs with the light conditions in your garden space. Sun-loving plants like marigolds or tomatoes need a good 6 hours of sunlight each day. But if your garden is more in the shade, ferns or begonias would be a better choice. Also, consider the plant's water needs. Some plants need more water than others. Succulents, for instance, are drought-tolerant and require less frequent watering. On the other hand, plants like impatiens and cucumbers need consistent moisture. Don't forget to take into account the plant's hardiness. Some plants can withstand harsh weather conditions while others need more care. If you live in colder regions, opt for frost-tolerant plants like pansies or kale. If you're in a warmer climate, plants like geraniums and petunias are more heat-tolerant. Lastly, consider the aesthetic appeal of your plants. Mix and match colors, textures, and shapes to create visually captivating arrangements. Perhaps a mix of vibrant zinnias with trailing ivy, or a combination of feathery ferns with glossy hostas. The possibilities are endless. Picking the right plants is crucial to a successful container garden, so choose wisely. Remember, the goal is to create a thriving garden that not only produces but also adds beauty to your space. Happy planting! With our plants selected, let's discuss placement and watering. Now let's dive into the art and science of arranging your plants. Imagine your container as a mini landscape. The tallest plants, often referred to as thrillers, should be at the back or center depending on where your container is placed. The medium-sized plants, or fillers, should surround the thrillers, while the smaller trailing plants, or spillers, should be at the edge, cascading over the side of the container. This arrangement not only creates an appealing visual balance but also ensures that all plants receive adequate sunlight. Speaking of sunlight, it's vital to place your container in a spot that matches the light requirements of your plants. For instance, if your plants need full sun, make sure they get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight per day. If they prefer shade, find a spot where they will be shielded from the harsh afternoon sun. Now, on to watering, the lifeblood of your container garden. Watering might seem straightforward, but when done incorrectly, it can lead to a host of problems, including root rot and disease. The key is to water deeply, but infrequently. This encourages the roots to grow downwards in search of moisture, resulting in stronger plants. So how do you know when to water? A simple finger test will do the trick. Insert your finger up to the second knuckle into the soil. If it feels dry, it's time to water. If not, hold off for another day or two. Another tip is to water in the early morning or late evening to minimize evaporation. And remember to water the soil, not the leaves, to prevent fungal diseases. Lastly, don't forget about drainage. Make sure your containers have holes at the bottom to allow excess water to escape. Overwatering is one of the biggest killers of container plants, so it's better to err on the side of caution. Remember, successful container gardening is all about proper placement and watering. Even the best gardeners make mistakes. Let's learn how to avoid the most common ones. One of the most prevalent missteps in container gardening is overwatering. It's a natural instinct to water our plants generously, but too much of a good thing can lead to root rot in a waterlogged environment that's inhospitable to your plants. The key here is to understand your plant's specific needs. Some plants may prefer a drier soil, while others might require more frequent watering. A great tip to avoid overwatering is to feel the soil. If it's dry an inch below the surface, it's time to water again. Next up, overcrowding. We all want our container gardens to look lush and full, but stuffing too many plants into a small space can create competition for resources. Sunlight, water, and nutrients become scarce, which can stunt growth and invite disease. So remember, less is more. Provide your plants with ample space to grow and spread. It might look a bit sparse at first, but with patience, your container garden will flourish. Lastly, never neglect to fertilize. Just like us, plants need a balanced diet to thrive. While soil does provide some nutrients, it might not be enough for your plants to reach their full potential. Fertilizing is crucial in container gardening because nutrients can be quickly depleted with regular watering. A slow-release organic fertilizer is a good choice for most container plants. It provides a steady supply of nutrients over a long period, promoting healthy and consistent growth. Now, these are just a handful of the common mistakes gardeners make. But don't be disheartened. Everyone makes mistakes, and gardening is a learning process. The important thing is to observe, learn, and adapt. If your plants aren't thriving as you'd hoped, don't be afraid to try something new. By avoiding these common mistakes, you'll be well on your way to a thriving container garden. We've covered a lot today, but let's quickly recap. Container gardening is a fantastic way to maximize your space, allowing you to cultivate a variety of plants in areas you may not have considered before. Remember, selecting the right container is crucial. Your choice should not only be aesthetically pleasing but also practical, considering factors like size, material, and drainage. Choosing suitable plants is another significant step. You need to consider their growth habits, sunlight and water requirements, and how well they'll coexist with other plants in the same container. Optimizing plant placement is all about understanding your plant's needs and the conditions of your space. It's a game of balancing sunlight exposure and creating a visually appealing arrangement. Watering is a craft in itself. Too little or too much can be detrimental, so understanding the right amount is vital. Remember, most plants prefer a good soak and then a period to dry out, rather than a constant light sprinkle. And of course, avoiding common mistakes will make your container gardening adventure a lot more enjoyable and successful. Overcrowding, under or overwatering, and choosing incompatible plants are pitfalls to watch out for. Container gardening is a journey of exploration and learning. Every plant you grow, every container you use will teach you something new. Now that you're equipped with these tips, you're ready to make the most out of your limited gardening space. Go ahead and create your own thriving container garden.